I am so excited to introduce our next speaker, Jessica Hawk. So let's give her a big welcome.
Hi, guys. There's a guy out there that's wearing a Got Data shirt. I can't find him now, but I saw him walk in. I love the shirt. Data is the lifeblood of AI. I like to tell people that. I think we all know that in this room. So I am really excited to be here. My role at the company, it was well explained, but the thing that I may mention is because I sit with our customers and our engineering team and our product marketers and our partners, I do feel like I have a little bit of a front row seat to what's happening. And I assume that everybody's here because I don't think I need to convince you that AI is having a moment. If I went back a year ago, it was kind of a different conversation, right? So that's why we're here today. We're here to talk. Oh, there he is. I see you. There's Got Data. He's right there. Hi. AI is definitely having a moment. And the reason why this conference was so exciting for me to attend is because there's so much to say about the technology doing things to empower the people that use it. And so I kind of like to know who I'm talking to, so I know that this guy likes data, but I would love it if you guys would give me a show of hands. How many of you are in the IT side of the house? Interesting. Okay. And how many of you are being asked, regardless of what your role is, or if you're a student or working on your own entrepreneurial endeavor, how many of you are being asked to think about driving innovation? Hands. Yeah. So the thing that I want to say as we start off the conversation is if you've been around, I've been at product marketing and IT for a couple of decades. I started out as a SQL developer, which is why I like that shirt. For sure, there's been these shifts. Internet came, major changes. Mobile came. For those who've been doing this for a while, you might remember we used to write business requirements documents to go build against, and mobile was like the last section of the document. Maybe if we get to it, we'll do it. And then, of course, that flipped overnight, right? There have been these moments, but I do think that there is something so significantly different when we think about what's happening today. So it's not new that business model innovation comes. It's not new that companies start to understand what's possible when new technology emerges. But what I do think is slightly new is that in most of the other moments that I just described, they were very IT-led. So the technologists in the organization understood the potential, and then there was this classic conversation that happens between the technology side of the house and the business side of the house, and perhaps even the leadership side of the house, to get alignment on, yes, we want to go and do this. And what I would say is today, it is a very different situation. Part of that, I think, is what we saw with the pandemic. The pandemic really paid off this concept of digital transformation, which was a word. I hate buzzwords. You're not going to hear me talk about insights much today. But digital transformation was this concept of taking companies that had technology that was legacy or not agile enough to meet the current demands, and then empower that with digital technologies that emerged out of the internet. And it was kind of this constant conversation around when is the right time. And when the pandemic hit, it was very clear that the companies who had made the investment to get into a more digital base of foundation survived the incredible pressures much better than those who hadn't. So if I think about what's happening today, oh, I don't have my clicker. Where's my clicker? Sorry, guys. I need the clicker. So if I take us to what's happening today, I think that we have different pressures than we saw with the pandemic. We're having things like global workforce that is shrinking. We've had a few decades of stagnant productivity. And we have security threats that are emerging and evolving faster than ever before. And so why does this matter? The way that we look at this, and as we're talking to all of our customers, if you think about each one of those statements, AI has the power to address each one of them. So out of curiosity, again, I'm a curious person, how many of you have been asked to think about AI innovation in the last month? How about last week? How about today? Again, AI is having a moment, right? So the whole conversation today is going to be like, I don't have to prove it to this room, which is awesome. Because again, if I go back to a year ago, as the leader of the data and AI business at Microsoft, I felt like I had pretty good understanding of data. AI was still like, yes, we're looking at it, we're doing some things, but maybe we'll get to that next year. Completely different conversation today. So what I'm going to talk about is, why is it real right now? I used to be at the Associated Press. I have kind of a journalist mindset. I sniff for things that smell like a tech bubble or tech for tech's sake. And getting into this role and seeing what our customers are doing, I would say, no, this is absolutely real, and it's driving real impact for our customers, which again, in the IT world, has always been the goal. The idea was to empower the business with better business outcomes, and I think AI is uniquely capable of doing that, and I'm going to walk you through a few examples. So I'm going to talk about why it's real. Then, and I was here for the last set of questions, then I'm going to talk about the other thing that I think is unique about this moment, which is I think people are excited, and we know that businesses recognize this is an incredible moment when you think about generative AI in particular, but there's concern, natural, understandable, and correct concern that this technology can do things that can put a company or a user or a person who is working with the technology in a different place than they might have been without the solution. And so we have to think about responsibility. And Microsoft has been doing this for many, many years, and I think we are uniquely invested in solving this problem. It's a journey, and we're all on it together, but I want to talk to you about some of the things that we're doing and some of the things that our customers are doing to help address the responsible use of AI. And then finally, I do think, and this is, I'm not a seller, I have no quota, this is not meant to be a pitch, this is a conversation. And so I'm going to go through, if you do believe that there's opportunity here, and you do think that there's a responsible way to make this AI technology real, then you want to think about, how do I action it? And so I'm going to walk you through some examples that are in the Microsoft portfolio, just to help spark the imagination. So that's the basic outline for today. So what's happening now that's unique? ChatGPT. The ChatGPT, right? I've been talking to customers about AI, cognitive services, and machine learning for years. AI is not new. What is new, what happened last year, is after OpenAI achieved their breakthrough with generative large language models, AI broke through the consumer space. And so I say earlier, it's been many times in the past when there's technology leaps forward, the IT side of the company tends to get it, and then they have to go pitch it. Completely different situation right now. Because of what OpenAI did when they made ChatGPT available on their website and the world started to experience what it was capable of, I think it signaled a complete shift in terms of expectations, externally in our personal lives, and then internally in the organizations. So I've got 3 customers of ours as examples of they're already on the journey, and some of the things that they're experiencing, whether it's in a traditional machine learning or cognitive services way, or through the third one on the slide is about CarMax, where they used our Azure OpenAI service to do something with generative AI that is massively transforming their business. So this is about, it's not tech for tech's sake, it's not a bubble, these things are real. Okay, so now that I can use the clicker, rather than me tell you what CarMax did, I'm going to let them explain it themselves. There's a great video. And what I'd love for you to do as you're watching the video is just listen for this productivity angle that I'm talking about here. Listen for what they're saying in terms of how they felt like using this AI technology really empowered productivity for themselves.
Car buying is a big decision. It's the second largest thing a person will do after buying a home. CarMax disrupted the industry by bringing honesty and transparency. We have tens of thousands of cars on our website or through our app. And without talking to a human being, customers can get overwhelmed.
The challenge that we had was that we only could create so much content. There's manual effort, there's research, the writing, there's the proofreading.
Our writers can only produce so much content a month. It would have taken them years to produce enough pages to be relevant.
Azure OpenAI service allows us to summarize all of the custom reviews and put it in a simple to read and understandable sentence.
We're able to take content and feedback from a lot of other customers, curate it, and create this very tailored content for a specific car.
Through the fine-tuning process, we're at 80% of the content goes through without a human needing to be involved. We're estimating an individual would take 11 years to do what OpenAI service has done in days. We have seen a significant increase in our search engine optimization.
Now, the editorial team, they're able to focus their time on the areas most beneficial to the company and to our customers. There's so much possibility with OpenAI service. We're innovating at a scale, at a pace like never before. It's going to change everything we do.
So I don't know if you caught it, 11 years in a couple of days. And then if I were just to, because I've spent some time with these folks, when you talk to their editorial team, so if you haven't used CarMax.com, it is a place that you can go to purchase a car. And, you know, if I go to, let's take OpenTable, and I'm trying to pick a restaurant, the stars aren't working anymore. Like, it's not enough. I need to know more. And so if I'm trying to pick a place to go to dinner, I start reading through the reviews to try and really understand, like, what is it about this place that I might want to go to? Well, that's what CarMax was trying to do. They were trying to take all the user feedback that they had on their vehicles and elevate the ones that really mattered, the things that people would find the most interesting, and make that available to people coming to the site. They're editorial people. They are not people who want to read through spreadsheets or pages of pages of pages of user reviews. So they want to use things like sentiment analysis. They want the AI technology to surface this up. But the thing that's interesting about generative AI is that it's not just seeking the signal, but it's finding everything, not just the most commonly used words, but scanning the entire set of the data set and finding new insights that are, I just used that word, new insights that weren't obviously available and would never have been found if you had to spend 11 years. Nobody's interested in spending 11 years crawling through data. And so the thing that's exciting is instead that editorial team is back to what they wanted to do when they joined to be part of the editorial team at CarMax. Their time is spent on figuring out the best way for a new user coming to the site to consume the insights. I did it again. I don't have a script, can you tell? It's all about the creative process. And so when I think to what today is all about, like, that's one of the things that we're seeing over and over again. I'll show you some other examples later on, where it's really about taking the mundane, the repetitive, the drudgery tasks out of the job so they can spend more time doing the things that they really wanted to do. And so here's another example. I'm at Daimler, so I thought this was perfect. Every morning when I drive to the office, I listen to the Wall Street Journal Tech News podcast. And just a couple of weeks ago, they had the CEO of Qualcomm on, and he said something that was super interesting to me. He made this bold prediction. He said, over time, the services offered by car companies will eventually exceed the profit of selling the car in the first place. And what he was talking about, if you listen to the interview, and I'm sure you can go find it, was he was explaining there's this gap in the current chain. There's the car manufacturer, there's the dealer, and then there's the driver. And because of the digital platforms that we all have now, and because the AI technology is so powerful and available to car makers, they are now feeling more connected to their customers. It's been a decades-old problem they've never been able to solve. They have this ability to really understand how their end users are using their product. So I tried to give you a couple of examples of why I say not a tech bubble, not tech for tech's sake. This is real, and it's actually creating business value, which is what we all talk about, for our customers. So then if I were to shift, I'm going to take you into how we're thinking about using this technology responsibly at Microsoft. And I do think of this as a two-sided conversation. I'm going to cover what I'm going to describe as a change management opportunity, and then I'm going to cover the tools and the systems and the processes that we're building for the responsible use of AI. But I start with the change management because I don't think that's what people expect to hear when you enter into the responsible use conversation. But here's why I think that this is the right way to describe it. Data needed governance. We didn't know that right away. Databases serving applications as the internet era took off, federated all over the place. And then you start to hear things like data sprawl. And what emerged was understanding that, as the internet was more widely adopted, there were going to be needs to make data-driven decisions across organizations. But you could never possibly control it all from a single place. And so these tools that are called data governance solutions were born. And data governance, put simply, is about creating a center of excellence, think somewhere in the central IT organization, that understands the basic rules. HR data can only go certain places. Finance data can only be used by certain users. The governance, the way the company thinks about who can see what when, is organized centrally. And then the tooling allows for the data to be distributed so application developers don't have to write those rules every single time for every single possible outcome for where data can be used. You hear things like data democratization or data acceleration. Governance systems allowed for that process. The thing that I would say in this space is what we learned with data governance projects, tools, platforms, was it was as much a cultural transformation in the organization as it was an IT project. Because the tools are there, but gosh, for people who were used to being in control of every little thing on their side, to have to cede some of that control, well, what did we learn? First of all, that's not easy. And secondly, you have to have some transparency in that decision-making so that the folks that are not necessarily in that central IT team can still trust that the governance is being applied correctly. So truly, it becomes a bit of a cultural shift within the organization about understanding that the controls are proper and then having a little bit of trust to go federate it out. And so that takes training, it takes learning, it takes talking about these things. And I think that we're in a similar situation when you think about responsible use of AI. I think it's completely natural and correct for folks to be excited about the possibility, but concerned at the same time. And so I would say that this is as much a change management opportunity for ourselves as it is a technology leap forward. And so as everybody's on this journey together, I won't pretend that there is a complete 100% right answer. We all know that. What can you do? If you're excited and you want to get started and you know you need to do something in the space, what can you do to empower yourselves and the people that you work with to feel like we've got some path to correctness? And so this is why I would say it's change management. And so I'm going to roll a video from a customer who was excited to talk about everything that they were doing with AI, but listen for I think it's mainly towards the middle part of the video. It's about 3 minutes, so I get to go sit down because I'm wearing heels. Listen for how they talk about how they made sure that the adoption of the technology was done in a safe and responsible way.
UCB is more than 90 years old and has always been devoted to innovation and bringing medicines forward that make a difference for people. Drug development is risky, costly, takes very long.
What we are looking for is the ability to improve the speed, the quality, and the cost effectiveness of the work that we do. I believe AI is a critical component of that.
So we actively look for opportunities where we can enhance our people's intuition, their decision ability. The barriers to apply AI are lowering and the sophistication is going up.
We're using AI technology, machine learning already in several areas.
One good example is the COVID Moonshot project, a very exciting project that was open science, which was to use artificial intelligence and high-speed computing to design molecules that may be beneficial for COVID. It has allowed us to iterate a molecule generation cycle much faster.
We are using AI on the end-to-end automation of our clinical trial processes. We have developed bots that do our case reporting. So previously, this was a heavy manual process that gives us consistency, that gives us quality. This gives us a lot of savings over a couple of years, and it frees up our people's time.
Different types of professionals are involved in making a drug in this journey. From beginning to end, you have thousands of people touching a drug.
We are bringing together our researchers, our clinical people, our access people, our marketeers to really drive deep.
In terms of looking at how do you build a team, it's really about not leaving people behind, understanding what AI means in their specific space. We do that through training programs, thought pieces, and really making sure that we have a community around it as well.
We celebrate failures because that's part of the courage to innovate, and innovation cannot come top down. Innovation has to be driven by the colleagues who are very close to the matter.
And that's what I think is exciting about the partnership with Microsoft, because we can bring the Microsoft way of thinking to a problem with our expertise in the discovery space.
I believe that the pharmaceutical industry is ripe for innovation with the kinds of technologies Microsoft and AI bring.
So did you hear it? Kind of took a slightly different direction in the video, and that's why I wanted to share it with you guys. Innovation cannot come top down. It has to be from the ground floors of the organization upwards. And again, I'll go back to, I think people are right to feel some discomfort about where this technology is taking us. And as humans, and we're here to talk about humans and AI coming together, what can you do? And I would say these are things you can do. You can start thinking about the need to educate and to train and to be thoughtful about how AI is showing up. He said over 1,000 people, thousands of people are touching this drug through its creation process, making sure that people understand where the AI shows up in their work. These are things that we can do as we go on this journey together. And so then if I were to come back from the change management to the way Microsoft thinks about responsible AI, the thing that I like to share with folks is that we started building AI into our first-party products. So think Outlook, Teams, Xbox, pick your favorite Microsoft product. We actually started building AI into these products many years ago. And so we had the same concerns and the same challenges. And so what we decided to do was create a team that's dedicated to focusing on the responsible use of AI. And that's led through Brad Smith's organization. So you may have seen something from him, where he's our president and he's our chief legal officer at the company, to think about how we do this in a responsible way for ourselves, for our own engineers, thousands of engineers writing software all day long that's bringing AI into those products. How do we do it responsibly? So we started with the principles. Of course, that's where you would start. What are the things, how do you define the problem, and what are the areas that you need to think about that you're always covering when you think about responsible use of AI? And so these are the 6 principles that we go by and our engineering team uses. But the problem is that the principles aren't enough. And why is that? Well, number 1, they're not self-executing, right? Number 2, they're principles. They're very open to interpretation. And then number 3, they're not capable of answering the question, how? So I'll take the transparency principle, which is particularly important when you're thinking about responsible use of AI. How, as a developer, fingers on keyboard, how do I make sure that I've got the transparency I need for the AI that's being used? So think of Microsoft engineering, many thousands of engineers, as customer 0 for the Azure AI portfolio. Everything that we build and make available to our customers is first built upon, tested, iterated. Our engineers are not shy. We get lots of feedback of how to use the service. And so what we started to do is capture the journey. We captured the things that we went through, and we built something called the AI standard. So we basically recorded our experience and captured the learnings. We used all of the learnings. This is over many years. Used all those learnings to develop basically a playbook for the next project team that was going to do something with AI. So we're just getting smarter and smarter about how to think about implying these 6 core principles that we think about. And the thing that we did that I think, I've only been at Microsoft since 21, but I was a partner with Microsoft before then for many years. I don't know that I've ever seen us be so front-footed in terms of sharing our own internal journey. And what I mean by that is in the summer of last year, we took the second version of this standard, this engineering how-to guide that we had developed between our engineering team and our legal team, and then we made it available to the internet. So it is on Microsoft.com/AI, RAI. This is us living our mission, right? Our job is to empower every person in every organization on the planet to do more. And we feel like there's such an incredibly important need to take on this tech innovation in a responsible way that we are sharing our guidebook for others. And the idea there is just learn from what we've learned. Be ready, go faster, take advantage of the framework. I think we are very good at creating products and services that can go be built upon. I think this is an awesome opportunity for us to also help a little bit on the how side. So less which product you're using, more how are you actually using it. And then we've gone a step further. You heard the chief medical officer in the last video talk about this. You can have a standard, you can take all the learnings, you can find ways to apply them in your organization, but I think we need to do even more. So also on that same Microsoft.com/RAI site are trainings, practices, examples, things that we think will help our customers. Again, if I go back to what's unique about now, I think the pace that we're going to move into this AI era is going to be uniquely faster than it was with the internet and with mobile. And so we're really trying to do everything we can with our customers to empower them to take on this journey in a responsible way. Okay, so I've covered the real, why this is real. I just walked you through how we're thinking about doing AI innovation in a responsible way. And so now I'm going to turn to the last section, which is really about how do you action the opportunity. And so I'm going to start by just having you look at a video that talks about how AI is showing up in everything that we do. And again, this is not a sales pitch. This is more about sparking imagination around ways that people are starting to engage with this incredibly capable technology.
Lately, you may have noticed artificial intelligence helping people create amazing things, solve complex problems, and inspire communities to imagine more. But you might be surprised to know that while AI has been accelerating at a faster pace these days, Microsoft has been responsibly developing AI for a long time, like for decades. Microsoft is using breakthroughs in AI to make life easier for us in everyday ways that you might not even realize. Background noise suppression on calls? That's AI. Using Microsoft Designer to help create a birthday invite? That's AI. Translating meetings? That's AI too. And that's just on an individual level. Microsoft AI is helping businesses boost manufacturing operations, improve customer service, and prevent fraud. Microsoft AI is also helping customers work on some of society's greatest challenges: sustainable farming, digital literacy, and more. But it's also important to develop this tech responsibly. Our goal is to democratize AI and machine learning so everyone can develop, use, and benefit from AI innovation. The next year will be one of the most exciting and innovative yet, leading us to places that now we can only imagine. Imagine more with Microsoft AI.
And so for this last section, I'm going to walk you through the Microsoft Cloud. And if you look at this is how we're organized as an organization and the way we go to market. We have 6 segments that we focus on from a product perspective. The left side are what I'll call the one-piece solutions. So these are the products. So we talked about Office and Teams, and you'll see something in a second around what we're doing in our BizApps platform with Viva Sales. These are software tools, SaaS solutions that customers use that have AI embedded every day. Like I said, customer zero for Azure AI is our internal engineering teams. So that's the left side with security, BizApps, and modern work. On the right side, we've got infrastructure, digital app, and innovation, and data and AI. So these are where we make the same tools that our engineering team is using to make Office smarter. We make those same tools available to our customers to go build their own applications. And the point of all of this is really to explain the 2 ways that we're sort of thinking about these things. I'll go back to where we started, which is we know that productivity is a challenge. And we know that workforce at the size that I think many organizations would like to hire is proving difficult. There's all these pressures that we see AI as being uniquely able to address. Think of the left side as the productivity enhancement environment. And then think of the right side as the ability to go build those experiences yourself to do new things with your customers. So I'm going to walk you through the first example. I just have 2, just to sort of set the stage of what is happening with this Azure AI portfolio inside these first-party products. And we're going to start with Viva Sales, which is we released recently, which is solving the age-old problem. I don't know if we have any sellers in the room, but salespeople, by nature of their job, they are often engaged with customers and answering questions about products and capabilities and how much would this cost me and when can I get it. There's this constant cycle of discussion with their customers. And then there's this other need, which is their managers, their sales leaders want to know where they're at in that conversation. And so if you've been around a seller, you know they'll call it CRM updates, getting in there and noting that you've had a conversation or that you've gotten a meeting or that you're at this part in the sales cycle. Absolutely the least favorite part of their job. So again, I'm going to come back to productivity and taking the things out of the day that folks don't want to focus on so that they can do the things that they do. Viva Sales is our answer to that age-old problem by bringing generative AI into the seller's environment.
Karen is a busy relationship seller working every day with key accounts. When she receives an email from one of her clients asking for a proposal, naturally she jumps into action. In order to craft a well-written response, here is an example of what she would typically do. Karen would load the CRM system and navigate to the opportunity. She'd then review the product information and the notes, and then spend at least 15 minutes compiling a personalized response, including the right data points from CRM. However, there's a far more efficient way to carry out this action. Let's go back to the mail, and Karen can see a Viva Sales notification banner at the top offering help to craft a response. As she launches, she can see the new ChatGPT style experience, and Karen can see a selection of preset options to help her respond. As she selects Make a Proposal, Azure OpenAI automatically generates a suggested reply enriched with the content from the CRM data. It also includes key data from the email thread and generates a suggested response from the seller. As you can see, there's a mention of the product, the number of units, and the pricing, all seamlessly within the response. With the content complete, she can simply copy the message back to her email, make any minor adjustments to suit her style, and hit send. Not only is this far more efficient than crafting a message from scratch, Viva Sales can instantly store and update the insight back into CRM. With the contact records linked to Salesforce, we can ensure a better data capture, improve data hygiene, and build trust with the value of the information.
So if I go back to allowing folks, just like at CarMax, to focus on the things that they want to do, sellers do not want to do CRM updates. Sellers do not want to go into the product catalog and get the very latest price for the product that the customer is asking for. What they do want to do is respond quickly to customers when they have questions. And by having the system generate that response, go get that information and do a heck of a job to basically cover 90% of what needed to be put into that email. So their job is just light changes, and then they click send, and that information is automatically sent back to the CRM system, so they don't have to let their manager know, yes, I'm engaging with this account, and it looks like we're going to have something here. That's what I mean by it allows them to not do the things that they have to do all the time that they don't enjoy, and then they can focus on the things that they do. So if I switch into GitHub, so GitHub is a platform that is used by over 100 million developers around the world. So now I'm going to go from salesperson to developer. GitHub is used by 90% of the Fortune 500. It is the place where developers come to write code. We just recently, it was last fall, introduced GitHub Copilot. So another early use of generative AI, so it's using the Azure OpenAI service to create a Copilot experience for developers who are in the GitHub platform building software all day long. So as you're watching the video, one of the things that I would ask you to look for is not just that the technology is being created as a Copilot to the developer, but the speed at which it's being done.
Let's see how Copilot can make me a more productive developer. I'm using Django Python, which, like most programming languages and frameworks, is supported by Copilot. Django is a framework for creating line-of-business applications, and the first step is to create my model classes, which is typically tedious. What I'm going to do instead is describe, using natural language, what I need my model to look like. That gray italicized text is Copilot generating the appropriate code. It creates the class definition and the full class across multiple lines of code. Copilot is also context aware. It saw the fact that I created a speaker class, and once again goes, well, speakers need to do something, and it generates a talk class for me. That entire class, all of those lines of code, was generated for me automatically by Copilot. There was one thing I didn't necessarily want here, which is it's allowing for speakers and talks all to be deleted. I want to modify that, so I go back to Copilot, ask it for a new suggestion, and it generates one. Finally, I want to add on a code for the talk which matches a particular pattern. Normally at this point, I would go running off to Stack Overflow to look up how to write this regular expression. Instead, I describe in natural language what that pattern is supposed to look like, and Copilot generates all of the appropriate code for me. This allows me to stay in the zone and focus in on the more important aspects of writing code.
%40 of new code in GitHub is being written by Copilot. 55% improved speed and productivity of the development team. Every organization that I talk to would like to have more development capacity, but they just can't hire at the pace that they're looking to do. But then it's this last statistic that to me is the one that is most important, especially given our conversation today, which is how we think about humans and AI coming together. We launched GitHub Copilot at Ignite in October, I think it was, of last year. And I was in the Seattle Convention Center listening to Satya talk about this great new advancement that we were bringing to market. And I saw the comments, and you've probably seen comments like it, and there was a lot of concern about developer job loss, put simply. We're just a couple clicks later, or a few months later, and when we go out and we talk to our users of the service, it's this last one that I think is so important to look at. They're feeling so much more satisfied in the work that they're doing because it's just the drudge tasks that went away. So I started in SQL, and then I got pulled over to the .NET side. And let me tell you, some of those things that were discussed in the demo, having to go and look at, I can't remember exactly, do I use a bracket here or am I putting a quote? You know, being able to just say, I'm okay with ads, but I don't want deletes. How do I nest it? Like, these are the things that happen day in and day out. Pro developers are not excited about that work. Maybe when they were first learning it at the very, very beginning, which doesn't change, you get into that conversation with a developer today, that is the part that they wish they did not have to do. Debugging, peer reviews, all of the things that are automated, or I'm sorry, that are repetitive, that is not what's exciting to developers. What's exciting to developers is thinking about the problem and how would I elegantly architect the solution and go work on the harder parts of the code. So seeing this statistic come through, of course, that's what we are hoping to achieve. We're really about trying to use the technology to empower users. Seeing the statistic in particular, I think, is very interesting as we talk about humans and AI together. So if I go over to our cloud again, we just covered a couple of one-piece scenarios. Now I'm going to talk about what customers are doing when they want to bring this capability into their own internal environments or for their customers. So we're going to be on the right side, the 3P side. This is what's living in Azure in the Azure AI portfolio. And the thing that I'd love to highlight here is, so I'm the data and AI leader, right? And the digital app and innovation commercial solution area is a partner of mine. And until very recently, I was often having to say, apps need data. It's apps and data. They're together. When customers build applications, they do it with data. Today, it's a completely different conversation. Like, that is, like, everybody gets that. Yes, there's a data layer that serves the app. What I get to say now is that every application needs to be intelligent. And so if you've ever worked on a project at a company where you're saying, I want to modernize an existing application, or if you're building something brand new from the ground up, there's always a natural, like, there's a process that you have to go through. You have to convince, you have to seek approval, you have to get budget. Some of these projects are pretty involved. intelligence is what always gets the conversation going, because the decision makers, the folks that are on the business side or those who are approving the spend, when you talk about the incredible capability that this application can deliver, when you bring intelligence into it, completely opens up the conversation. Because companies understand we're in a disrupt or be disrupted world. And so there's a lot of excitement to bring these capabilities in. So in this age of AI, every application needs to be intelligent. And so then when we talk to our customers about, okay, what can you do with it? It's a lot of incredible complementary capabilities in this product portfolio. I just walked through these 4 basic areas. The infrastructure first. There is a reason OpenAI chose Microsoft and Azure as its exclusive provider. There are things that we do with those GPUs and the way we network them together that makes our hardware in the Azure cloud uniquely purpose-built for AI. Then there's machine learning, which is a PaaS service where data scientists typically can engage with the models. There's our cognitive services suite, which are the things that we had to do things like vision and text translation. And then most recently, the new member of the family is the Azure OpenAI service, which we launched in January. And then there's my cheat sheet. Give me a Saturday language explanation of what can I do with these things. That's what this is meant to be. It is a highly technical domain, but the application of it is actually pretty understandable if we use what I call Saturday language. Words I use to explain, what do you do again? To my grandmother at the barbecue party. These are the things that the platform can do. And it's written in a way that it's easy to recognize some of these terms. We're showing where it's showing up in our 1P solutions. So if you want to go and experience some of this capability, you can do that. Where it lines up in the third-party part of the portfolio. So if you want to build similar functionality in your organization, this is the part of the portfolio you would use. And then finally, some examples of customers who are doing this today. And I have 2 minutes and 25 seconds left, so I'm going to go fast here. But I'll spend a minute on the Azure OpenAI service in particular, because that is the new thing, and that is the generative large language model capability of the platform. This is what ChatGPT runs on. This is what GPT-4 runs on, and this is what we're making available to our customers. So what can it do? AI is not new. Machine learning is not new. Neural network capability of machine learning is not new. But what is new is generative AI. So the term generative, I think, is the thing to really focus in on. It's things like content generation, summarization, code generation, which you saw in the GitHub Copilot example, and semantic search. Search, search, search. When I look at the over 1,000 customers who are using Azure OpenAI after just a few weeks, search. Companies are still looking at how do I find what I'm looking for in the organization. So I'm going to close now by coming back to what today is all about, which is bringing AI innovation and the human experience together. And so I would just say there's something that's uniquely powerful about our AI advancements, and that is when you think about accessibility, which is something that Microsoft is incredibly committed to moving forward. AI has ways of addressing accessibility challenges in software and product experiences that are incredibly helpful as we work on this journey together to make all software and all platforms, tech platforms, more accessible to everyone. I'll give you 5 common examples of how the Azure AI portfolio is doing that. Things that our accessibility users are challenged with, and I'll focus on one in particular at 25 seconds left, which is what we announced at the Ability Summit just a couple of weeks ago. LinkedIn, over 40% of the posts on LinkedIn include an image of some kind. So you can imagine how challenging that can be for someone who has a vision disability. And so LinkedIn is using the Azure Cognitive Service focused on vision in particular to translate those images so those who can't see easily can still contribute and participate in the platform. And that's where, again, I would say, what a great example of AI truly empowering the human experience. And so I'll just close with, it comes back to our mission statement. And this is where it's kind of a pinch me moment for myself personally, because we are so living our mission. Mission statements. Like it's truly creating an opportunity for us to live our mission statement, which is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more.